The maritime industry, since the beginning of recorded time, has been the focal point for transportation of goods around the world. It is the most economical and environmentally friendly way to transport large goods throughout the world. Today, around 90% of world trade is carried by the maritime industry. Around 50,000 merchant ships registered in over 150 nations and manned by over a million seafarers of nearly every nationality transport every kind of cargo internationally. The continuous increase in ship size has been a distinct characteristic of containerization. Lastly, another importance is that it is a leading source of employment. The maritime industry is a leading source of employment in many countries, especially those with many ports and a length coastline. There are three types of employment which exist within the maritime industry: direct, indirect, and induced employment. Direct employment refers to jobs directly supported by the official maritime sector of a certain country. The maritime industry has served as the catalyst for various forms of technologically advances and development. The success of the maritime industry The success of the maritime industry hinge on innovative solutions as well as the development of new technologies which would the success of the maritime industry hinge on innovative solutions as well as the development of new technologies which would facilitate optimal function of shipping networks. Globalization and the development of manufacturing centers around the world necessitate a flourishing global shipping network. Now, have you ever wondered what materials and components make up a ship's primary components? A ship's visible and invisible structural components are constructed of steel and composite materials. Rudder, anchor, bow, keel, accommodations, propeller, mast, bridge, hatch coverings, and blow thrusters are some of the more obvious components of a ship. Invisible but essential ship components include, on the other hand, bulkheads, frames, cargo holds, hopper, tanks, double bottoms, girders, cofferdams, side, shells, and etc. We will examine some of the popular nautical phrases used on the ship since it can be difficult and uncomfortable to understand ship architecture when using common terms like front, left, right, and back. When a person is facing the bow of a moving ship, the side to his left is referred to as port and the side to his right as starboard. In a similar way, he refers to his front side as a forward and his back side stern. Since we have evolved from floating vessels to substantial ships, we will study about the components of ships that are universal.
The different parts of the ship. The first one, deck. A deck serves as a surface for or a covering over a ship's hull, the upper and lower decks, sometimes known as decks 1 and 2 and decks 3 in descending order, can be found in distinct sections or segments of a ship. What it really implies is that the main deck or weather deck is the highest deck that is exposed to the elements. A ship's deck can be classified into six primary categories based on its location and level: main deck, poop deck, upper deck, lower deck, weather deck, and foredeck. The full length of the ship's main deck is referred to as the ship's main deck. The next one, bow. A ship's bow is its frontmost portion, which cuts the water as it travels along its sides. The two most important requirements for a bow are that it have the least drag or so-called resistance between the water and the ship's hull, and that it be tall enough to prevent water from splashing on top of it too if it took frequently. The next one is bulbous bow. The majority of ships, particularly those used for commercial shipping, have a bulbous bow. It offers the advantage of increasing a ship's fuel economy by 10 to 15% and is clearly identifiable by its distinctive bulging bulb-like appearance just below the surface of the water. The next one, funnel. The exhaust gases are discharged into the atmosphere through a funnel. It can be compared to the ship's chimney. It has been an essential component of ship structure since mechanical ships were first introduced. The volume of exhaust produced by engine rooms has a big impact on the cross section of breadth of these funnels. In the early days of shipping, it was employed to disperse all of the ship's emissions, but today it is utili- utilized to minimize pollution within the confines of controlled emission. The next one, stern. The forward or bow portion of the ship refers to its front, whereas the aft refers to its back. Although the stern is a more common name for this, it is more precise. In terms of ship's overall length, the stern mostly refers to the part of structural area that is furthest to the rear. Simply put, it is more of what is seen when you are directly behind a vessel and are looking forward. The next one, the propeller and rudder. A ship's propulsion system, which consists of the engine, its shafts, including the intermediate and propeller shaft, and the propeller also comprises the propeller. A propeller, one of the most important components of a ship, is constructed of non-corrosive alloys like aluminum and manganese bronze. It is a mechanical device that resembles a fan and has blades attached to the shaft. It rotates along with the shaft to generate the critical thrust required to move a ship. The rotational energy of a ship's propellers blades is converted to pressure energy to create this thrust. The rudder, on the other hand, is made up of components such the rudder carrier bearing, the primary rudder blade, the adjustable flap, the hinge system, and link cages. Similar to how a propeller works, the rudder guides the ship according to Newton's third law of motion. Next one, hull. The portion of a ship below the waterline that covers and prevents water infiltration is known as the hull. You may think of it you may think of it as the shell that shields the fuels inside from the elements. The ship's hull covers and shields everything that is kept and placed inside the main ship construction. It covers the major components of the ship, such as the bow, deck, bottom keel, and both sides. Next one, keel. A ship's keel is a component of the hull that distributes stress and load evenly along the longitudinal sides of the ship, strengthening the structure. Vikings are known to have used it to stop their boats from rocking side to side when it was originally discovered. There are three primary varieties of keels used in the marine industry: flat keel, duck keel, and bar keel. A keel is nothing more than a thick plate that runs longitudinally across the ship from stern to stern. Passing through the center line of ship's bottom structure, all large ships currently in service have flat keels. Bar keels are used when the ship must operate in shallow water, while duck keels are favored for offshore vessels and double hull tankers. The next one, anchor. An anchor is substantial piece of metal that is fastened to the chain cables and kept in the hose pipe while the ship is in motion. With the addition of the ship anchor subclass, it can be either permanent or temporary. All ships that carry anchors are of the temporary variety because they are frequently dropped at various positions and are not always attached to one location. It is referred to as an anchor gear along with its chain cables connecting elements, windlass, and chain stopper. The five main components of an anchor are the shank, crown, stop, flute, and tripping ring. Tripping ring. A shank is a fixed stem structure that is attached to a flute by a tripping pin that travels through. the hole in the shop. The next one, superstructure. Superstructure and extended building or platform construction that stand out from the rest of the structure is known as superstructure. The maneuverability of the vessels is significantly impacted by the size of the superstructure. They are created in a way that they add value while barely slowing down or impeding movement. Most of the structure's design is inspired by fashion. This is so that it can be have a distinctive identity since it is the component of the ship that is most easily seen and serves as the ship identifier.
Now, let's tackle about the seven main types of ship. First, container ship. Container ship is a cargo ship that uses the containerization process to carry all of its goods in tackle-size intermodal containers. The majority of seagoing non-bulk cargo is currently transported via container ships, a popular commercial intermodal freight transformation method. How about the container ship made? American business Malcolm McLean invented intermodal transport container in 1956 and it has since transformed shipping and international trade. The idea was the storage container itself, not the contents, needed to transportable. This led to the invention of the steel shipping container, which Malcolm McLean patented in 1956 began manufacturing for the general public. The history of container ship. The initiation of container ship forms one of the remarkable development in the maritime cargo industry. The container ship, a type of cargo ship, have revolutionized how cargo supplies is ferried and transported across the world and assuring the safety and security of the transported cargo supplies. Today, something of the biggest ship companies deal mainly with the con- containerized from of cargo. The first model of container ships launched in 1950s and were mainly designed to ferry goods trains freight cars. Using crane and ramp system, these freight cars could be loaded and unloaded for the vessels. Over the years, technological advancement has made it possible for comparatively far, most possibly methodologies. However, crane systems still play a significant role in the loading and unloading operation of containers and from the vessel's holds. Specialized lashing and cargo handling systems are used to secure in containers in their places.
The second type of ships, bulk carrier. Bulk carrier are the types of ship which transport cargoes, generally dry cargo in bulk quantities. The cargo transport in the such ship is lost cargo, etc., without any specific packaging and generally contains items like food, grains, oils, and even cement. The idea of bulk carrier to transport important food, grains, ores, and minerals date back the 1850s. However, have been generally noteworthy advancement in the construction and utilization of the vessel type in the year following. A bulk carrier is explicitly designed to carry unpackaged bulk cargoes. The original bulk carrier were built in the year 1852. These vessels are continually developed by the time due to this efficiency, economic forces, adaptability, and care capacity. History of bulk carrier. Before specific bulk carrier existed, shipper has two methods to move bulk goods by ship. In the first method, longshoremen loaded the cargo into stock and shock into pallets. and put the pallets into cargo holds with a cairn. The second method required the shipper to curtain and enter-ship the spent time and money to build plywood bins in the holds, then to guide the cargo through the small hatches, wooden feeder, and stepping board had to constructed. This method will slow a labor-intensive as the curtain ship. The problem of efficient loading and unloading has driven the evolution of the bulk carrier, especially by bulk carrier began to appear as steam-powered steam become more popular. The first steam ship recognized as a bulk carrier was the British called carrier SS John Bowes is in 1852. She featured a metal hull, a steam engine, and ballasting system which used seawater instead of sandbags. This feature helped her succeed in the competitive British Poland market. The first self-unloader was the Lake Crater Hennepin in 1902 on the Great Lakes. This greatly decreased the unloading time of bulk car by using conveyor belt to move the cargo. The first bulker with diesel propulsion began to appear in 1911.
The third one is the tanker ships. Vessels that facilitate the supplying of mass quantities of liquefied freight are referenced as tanker vessels. Such liquefied freight can include but rock oil excavated from the underwater reservoir and all other types of liquid freight like alcoholic beverage, hydrogen-based organic compound, chemicals, and even juice. They also carried liquefied gaseous substance. The vessel designed for a particular purposes of transporting liquefied goods such as crude oil, petroleum, LNG, LPG, wine, vitamin, etc. In book are termed as tanker ships or tanker vessel or more commonly as tankers currently due to advancement in technology. A large number of tanker for the transportation of liquefied freight came into existence. So this history of tanker ships. Zoroaster. The world's first tanker ships. Zoroaster, the first tanker ships in the world, revolutionized the transportation of liquid cargo. Tanker are an essential cog in the oil transportation operation, and their operational existence date back to the late 1800s when Ludwig Nobel came up with the idea of transporting oil in tanks securely contained within ships. History of the Zoroaster tanker ship. Prior to the usage of tanker ships, oil was transported by a crude method across water channels. Trucks and drums were filled with oil and then transported to the necessary locations. This caused problem not only in terms of the times consumed to load the vessel, but also in terms of security and safety concern for the oil those stored within the vessels.
The fourth one, the passenger ship. A passenger ship
is a merchant ship whose main job is to transport people across. Ocean category includes cargo ship with a small number of passenger spaces, such as the ubiquitous 12-person freighter that were once widely used on the seas, and whose primary purpose is to convey cargo. However, the type does encompass a variety of ship classes built to carry both large amount of freight and passenger. In fact, up until quite recently, almost all ocean liners were capable of carrying cargo in addition to passenger luggage, including mail, package, freight, and express. They were also outfitted with cargo hold, derricks, imports, and other cargo handling equipment. This cargo capacity has only been reduced in more contemporary ocean liners and almost all cruise ships, while typically passenger ships are part of merchant marine. Passenger ships have also been used as cruise ships and often are commissionable as naval ships when used as for that purpose. It is an umbrella term which covers many aspects under itself, but in more or less general form passenger ship are the merchant ship generally employed for transportation of passenger or voyagers. So these are the merchant ship which carries passenger on national or international voyages. They can be as small as yachts and as big giant cruise ship. Merchant vessels that are employed to aid in the transiting of voyagers and passengers through the medium of water transportation are referred to as passenger ship. The terminology, however, covers a lot aspect under its umbrella, thus rendering as generalized nature to its normalized situation. The criteria of passenger vessels are governed as per circulation set by the International Maritime Organization. This stipulation not only specific on minimum amount of service are required a dozen voyagers but also down the regularity requirements to ensure safety security of passenger. There are many classified into first ferries. Ferries used to the transiting passenger and vehicle on short distance routes and called ferries. Second, cruise ship mainly use the recreational activities. Cruise ship are like luxurious floating hotels with state-of-the-art facilities. History passengers ship. Sailing is the oldest mode of transportation. Simple boats made of tree hides were used to travel by sea. Scientists and researchers use ship for their exploration. Ship which play a key role in the world's economy. Advancement in the ship goes hand in hand with the development of mankind. The passenger ship industry rose in the late 1880s and early 1990s, courtesy of the steam engine and the growing number of American immigrants crowding ocean liners. Transatlantic passage was still primarily one way, although affluent passengers traveled back from port between England and New York for business or holiday. Traces were found of first known vessel made of animal skin or woven fabrics and belongs to the Neolithic period about 10,000 years back. These vessels were not shipped in any regard by the initial transportation across water. By 3000 BC, ancient Mesopotamian and Egyptian were the first make use of boats made of wooden planks, all or large-scale transportation across the Nile, Euphrates, and Tigris.
The fifth one, naval ships. A ship designed for military service is called naval ships. Naval ships are built differently from civilian ships, mainly because of their intended use. In general, ships are armed with weapon systems. They are also made with stronger materials so that they can resist damage from outside forces. There are naval ships spe- specifically made for naval warfare, and they are called warships. Ships made for support functions are called auxiliary ships. These ships are intended only for shipyard operation and seldomly used for troop and armament transport. History of naval ships or warship, the chief instrument by which military power is projected on the seas. Warships protected the movement over water of military forces to coastal areas where they may be landed and used against enemy's forces warships. Protect merchant shipping against enemy attack. They prevent the enemy from using sea to transport military forces, and they attack the enemy's merchant shipping. Naval ships are also used in blockade in attempts to prevent an enemy from importing by the sea commodities necessary for prosecution of the war. In order to accomplish these objectives, naval ships have been designed from earliest times to be faster and sturdier than merchant ships, and to be capable of carrying offensive weapons.
The sixth one, offshore shift. Offshore shift are those used in oil exploration. They are also used to transport goods and people for construction project at sea. There are different classification for offshore vessels. Offshore vessels are boats designed specially for operational tasks like offshore building and oil prospecting. Vessels called anchor handling tug supply or AHTS are primarily designed to handle and low oil rig anchors so that they can be used to secure their rings and in position. Sometimes AHTS vessel also functions as supply transports and emergency response and rescue vessels. Or ERRVS, History of Offshore Ship. The history of offshore support vessel or OSV follow the same course of the amazing technological development allowing the exploration of the ultra deep water. The first incursion into the offshore beyond the sight of land happened in 1947 with the first productive well located 10.5 miles far from the Louisiana coast and drilled in water deep of 18 feet with success of the Creole field later with 10 additional wells. The investor were assured of the feasibility of offshore exploration, and this in conjunction with growing demand of oil, fluid, a series of technological development in a multitude of areas.
And the last one is the special purposes ships. Specialty vessels are contracted and used for specific purposes. The different types of ships in this class include the following. Icebreaker. These vessels are used to cut or break ice deposits in severe cold climate conditions so that water vessel can navigate through. Second is research vessel. These special ships can carry out various of research. The most commonly known research ships are the polar ships, oceanographic ships, hydrographic ships, and seismic ships. And the third one is salvage vessel. These types of watercraft are designed to undertake salvage operation. Salvage vessels are mainly used to recover the precious items at sea. Tugs. These ships can move or maneuver other ships by towing or pushing them. And the fifth one is barge carriers. These ships have flat bottoms. They are primarily built for transporting heavy items in canal or river. The sixth one, livestock carriers. These water vessels are used to transport animal or livestock to the market. The seventh one, tenders. These large ships are designed as support vessels to service other ships or boats. They are used to transport people and supplies to other ships or boats at sea. Timber carriers. These ships transport logs or timber. The next one is cable layers. These vessels are used in laying cables on the seabed. Light ships. These ships are used as lighthouses in the middle of the sea. They are stationed in a deep sea waters that are too deep for construction and of a conventional land-based lighthouse. And the last one is pilot craft. These water vessels are designed to transport harbor pilots. And in addition, special purposes ship means a ship which is constructed in accordance with the provisions of the IMO Code of Safety for Special Purpose Ships 1983 and subsequent version. History of special purposes ship. Among earliest shipbuilders were the Egyptian. Egyptian pottery and burials contain the earliest depiction of boats yet discovered. These images, which date back at least 6,000 years, depict long this thin vessel. They used paddles to row and were primarily constructed of fibrous reeds. The term special purpose ship refers to a self-propelled ship that carries more than 12 special persons in addition to crew or individuals who are specially required for this the operational tasks of the ship such as scientific research, crew training, cable laying, salvaging ships, and other property or other duties. Additional types of ships. The first one is the fishing vessel. The second one is the dredgers. The third one is the high-speed crafts. And the last one is the ro-ro ships.
Based on our discussion, it is clearly evident that the maritime shipping plays a vital part in the world trade and economy. All of this is due to maritime shipping. It will not and it will get even bigger. I'd very much like to see how much human culture changes in the next 100 and 150 years. Personally, I predict even greater than the ones that happened in the last 150 years. 90% of everything you own or use is carried by sea freight. In the book of Rose, George's book, 90% of everything, which wills a couple of years out of date, is still an eye-opener. Can you imagine the world without shipping industry? There is no country in the world that is sufficient enough to live without maritime shipping, since trade and commerce entirely depends on maritime shipping. Therefore, it becomes an essential component for driving the economy of the world. Our daily use products are transported via sea raw materials or finished products. Maritime shipping is the heart of global trade and economy. The industrialized world has increased the importance of shipping. The standard of living has increased as the finished products reach all parts of the world. It is possible due to the advancement of the shipping industry. The livelihoods of many people depend on this industry. Above all, being one of the oldest ways of transport, maritime shipping is increasing its importance in the realm of world trade. Thus, learning this topic is a vital step, a keystone in knowledge and for unlocking achievements and higher roles as we are the one of the aspiring marine engineers in the near future. Thank you everyone and padayon everyone.